Why are you staring at me weird?
I'm not. I'm placing myself in the camera so you look at the camera and not my face.
Oh, you're weirding me out.
Yeah, well, deal
Right.
with it.
Let's go. What is up, YouTube? It's James from Robin Henry Watches. Right, what we're going to get into today is I was reading this article on WatchPro. Now listen, the journalism on WatchPro sometimes can be
Leave something to be desired.
I like it when it's kept objective, which it isn't always, but I do find a lot of the articles interesting. It's good to keep up with like what's going on in the industry. But there was this one. It's an interview on a jewelers in well, they're not really, well, they're a jeweler and a watch authorized dealer in Pittsburgh. It's called Hen Jewelers.
Hen Jewelers.
Hen
Oh,
Jewelers.
Hen spelled H-E-N-N-E. Okay, that makes sense. I thought it's just named after the bird. It sounds a bit.
It would be really random. Anyway, what's interesting? So this article, it's about it's like fourth generation, and just about the story of the history of behind them and what they were doing with the building. So dial back. I don't know. Listen, we're going to link the article below. I don't know. The guy is basically leasing this building. It's got a corner position. It's good. He ends up buying the unit, the whole building. Above there's offices and there's residential on top. He's 4 million in for the building. It's all good. Now I can't really do this right, but you just have to bear with me. This is the storefront. He has Rolex here in the window. There's the doorway here, but that doorway leads up to the offices and residential. Then on the other side is the other window with Amiga in it and the door.
And a few others, I assume.
A few other brands, right?
Amiga and
So
the rest of the rabble.
he buys the building, blah, blah, blah. He's trading out of it and he's like, I want to refit the unit. So they've got all the plans drawn up. They're going to spend a few mil. It's going to be expensive. Rolex comes along and they're like, what are you doing about that? Pointing at the door in the middle, which isn't for the store because it causes issues. Customers keep opening this door and they're like, what's going on?
Where am I?
Am I going to heaven? No, it's not Rolex. So they're like, why don't you just get rid of it, the thing? So the guy goes to his architect and the architect's like, it's structural to the building.
It's going to set you back a bit.
This is going to cost a lot of money. So they're looking at different plans. Rolex, to be fair to them, they're helping out. So they were looking at, I mean, at one point they were looking at, should we just demolish the building and start again? Anyway.
I like that Rolex has already stepped in and said, we own this, let's just knock your shop down.
Basically. Anyway, they eventually find a solution to move that whole staircase and get out of the way. There was also a problem, I believe, with some other staircase or something in the building or lift or something that was in the way.
But anyway, move the rubbish out of the way.
This is irrelevant to the story, so I'm fluffing out too much context. Anyway, they find a solution. He's 8 million into the refit. So this is going to be $8 million on top of the $4 million. So this guy is balls deep in it. But to be fair, Rolex has got his back on this because he's the AD for Pittsburgh. You know, they're obviously committed.
And he's the only AD, isn't he?
Yeah. So he owns the business. He owns the store. It's multi-generational kind of family business. So Rolex, to be fair to them, help a lot. They're backing him basically. But I mean, they're backing him like, and he's there
for now.
Right. So then he's like, okay, right. Rolex is sorted. They're getting the best position, because they're obviously the number one brand in his store. He hasn't got Patek or anything. He's got the number two brand is then Amiga. Then there's Tudor. The other ones, Longines, Mont Blanc, whatnot. So he goes to them, and Amiga assert their position, and they're like, "We are number two. We understand." With a sour taste,
we know who's in charge.
We need a place nearly as good as Rolex, but we understand in the bigger scheme of things, without admitting it, that, okay, fine, they're number two. So this guy, he's like, okay, I'm going to give you the second best position, which is the corner unit, all right? But Tudor wanted that corner. So
Rolex wanted that corner.
Basically, and it's like, well, you've got to think who's bringing all the money. Anyway, Tudor say, okay, we'll move to the number 3 position. All we ask is that we're the same size as Omega in your showroom. So there's a compromise there at least.
That's a fair compromise.
So he goes back to Omega and he's
it's
like,
still a compromise
and
from
he's
Hitler,
like,
but
and he's like, right. I've got this sorted. How we're going to sort this is, Omega, you're going to still have the next best available space. The number you've got the corner unit, so we're sorted. Then they're like, well, okay, right. We've got the second best unit, but what are you doing with Tudor? And he's like, don't worry about that. They're behind you.
They're unimportant.
They're like, okay, well, how much space have Tudor got? So he's like, they've got the same space as you. So Omega are like, whoa, no. We can't have the same size space as Tudor because we are better than Tudor and we can't have our customers think that we are the same as Tudor. So despite the fact that we've got the second best location and Tudor is behind us in the third best location.
Customers don't always think that way.
They do and
they don't.
I might disagree with that to a certain point, but I think on location, but not space, just to touch on it. So they're out. And he's like, what? So anyway, he tries to find other workarounds, I think. Omega are having none of it. So he's speaking to the president in the US for Omega, not the president.
Speaking to Trump.
He's like, I think it's Trump. I think he wanted Biden right now.
Yeah, I know, but
Biden probably should speak. Trump would be able to fix this anyway.
Yeah.
No problem. So anyway, then he's like, okay, I'm not getting anywhere. So he writes to the head of Swatch, Nick Hayek Jr., writes back to them with what he describes as a curt but polite-ish response. And
polite but direct.
And he sums it up with saying, change is good. So Omega only had Hen Jewelers in Pittsburgh as the only Omega authorized dealer. So they were prepared to sacrifice selling any watches in that city. And yes, it's not the biggest city. It's quite a small city on US standards.
But it's very well known.
Right.
It's a lot of people to lose.
So, I mean, I don't know which analogy you want to use here, cutting off your nose to spite your face or what. But they walked away and were just like, we will not be the same size as Tudor. We're out. We won't sell watches in your market location.
Yeah.
Just out. And I know before I go too much further and go off to too many strands, you could be thinking, well, people might say, well, maybe they're just going to open their own single boutique. Well, yeah, they might do, but to be fair,
they've just committed.
We touched on this with the Bukhara thing.
Yeah.
Are you not better to be paired with Rolex and that footfall of you all together?
You'd think.
Rather than go a standalone boutique.
But does it reinforce that image that everyone already knows that Omega is not
Rolex?
So
I guess the point of this topic is just like for me, my point of view is this: the utter arrogance of Omega believing to this level that they are top dog. They like to think they're on level with Rolex. I think deep down they know they're not there. They're not that guy.
Yeah.
And they're willing to some level to accept second place.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, Rolex has got 30% of the market. Omega's only got 7%.
Which hurts to hear.
Well, yeah, but the audacity to pull out and just terrorist negotiations, and it just got me thinking more. It's think about over the last few years the pricing journey that Omega has been on
through the roof.
Yeah, and it's they really are pricing their models where they can in line, even in some cases above.
Yeah.
Rolex.
I mean, No Time to Die is more expensive than the Submariner, I think, or it's close.
Yeah, and it's come on. I don't care if you're an Omega fan or not, or a Bond fan, whatever. You can't put that watch above a Submariner. No. You just can't.
I love the Seamaster.
But the Seamaster is great at half the price of a Submariner.
Yeah.
That's the way that
That's how
I came into the watch market. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying here that Omega doesn't make great watches. I'm not saying they haven't got great movements, which you could make an argument are better than Rolex.
I'll tell you what the word is. They haven't got the clout.
They haven't got the clout.
That's the
because
word.
they haven't invested decades and decades of world-class marketing.
No.
Because they
rely on brand partnerships.
Because they're publicly traded, they've got shareholders to keep happy, dividends to pay, and it's just and it pulls out of the business all the time rather than just investing all the money back. Oh, that's unprofessional.
Whoops. Shame on you.
I know, right? Rather than investing all the money back into the business, and the Rolex are just the king, hence the crown of marketing, right?
Yes.
I just can't believe it. Like, I knew Omega was arrogant. I knew that they were borderline sociopaths. Yeah. Right? Maybe they're even psychopaths at this point. But just the fact that they're just ruling it out, like, no. And it's like, dude, Tudor, right, is not at Omega's level. Now, listen, there could be, like, which brand do I prefer right now? I don't know. I'd probably go with Tudor.
Yeah.
But Tudor is still positioning themselves at a different price point below
They know their lane.
Right?
Now, granted, that's probably Daddy Rolex saying, that's you, this is us. Don't start putting your black bays at us and marrying the prices because you're not that.
Yeah, but they're not that. And the market wouldn't allow it.
No, but whereas Omega have got similar watches.
If you put the Tudor Panda chronograph at 12 grand, who's going to buy it? Yeah, no one. Exactly. It's a $4,000 watch. So yeah, they know where they are. But I don't get how you would be like. I'm trying to think of like an analogy where it would just put it, but it's not a situation that really Omega needs to be that petty about.
No.
I get what you were saying before about location in the store. So if Omega was stuffed under the stairs, in the cubby hole, yeah, that's not a good look. It's got to be at the front. Fine, okay, I accept that. There's no Patek or AP in there, whatever. But I don't think the average consumer or customer going in would notice, be like, oh my God, the square footage is the same as Tudor.
You're shaking the camera, stop getting so excited.
I can't buy that Omega. I can't justify that price. The square footage. I'm out because the square footage is like, no, they wouldn't. You would almost to some level expect to see Tudor if you're knowledgeable. If you're not a knowledgeable watch person, you don't know the brands. Yeah, but they had the front space.
Yeah.
You had the front space. The guy's dropped $8 million revamping. He's the only authorized dealer in town. Like,
why turn that business away?
And he was fighting to find a compromise with Tudor because Tudor wanted that corner spot, but he got you that. He's obviously invested in your brand, and it's I just think
I think it's very arrogant. It's quite short-sighted,
petulant.
It is petulant,
right? And it's just like. Where is Omega going with this? Are they going to go on this like crazy just?
I think they've already started on this journey.
I think
look at their pricing.
Look at their pricing. Look at their random releases. And lately, they also seem unwilling to make changes. We've talked about this on the Seamaster 300M, right? In essence, it's a great watch at a good price, but. They are unwilling to move the case size down. They're unwilling to reduce the thickness. They're unwilling to look at, which, to be fair, maybe those are subjective points to someone like me who prefers smaller watches. But I think we're generally universally agreed by you that the bracelet is awful and it needs to be...
I go through phases.
I think you nailed it the other week. You said, the one, the vintage-looking flat-link one.
For the Speedmaster.
Yeah, right? And you and come up with some names. What was the name?
What's that called? We were talking about
Flatron.
No, or the what?
Flatron.
What the is that?
I know.
No, I named them after space missions. Like
Apollo and Gemini.
Yeah.
So they have the Apollo, Omega. You're going to pay us royalties here. I mean, you came up with it, but still, I'll take the credit.
Split it as usual.
Imagine having the Apollo bracelet, the Gemini bracelet, right?
They sound cool,
right? The new Speedmaster bracelets, things like that, which are okay, we could make that universal. It could
Who else does the Speedmaster flat link?
It could be the President, it could be the Jubilee, their version of it, right?
Yes.
Their take on it. It's not a copy, they've got their own.
And it's modern, which is what Omega try and do.
But Omega's just no, we're going to stick with this, we know what we're doing. It's actually, you know what, a lot of consumers are actually saying the opposite, and you're not listening to what they want.
Exactly.
That's why you've only got 7% market share.
They could call the Seamaster, if they really wanted to hang on to that Brosnan bracelet, they could call it the Heritage bracelet. They already have a heritage collection. Call it that. At this point, that is vintage look.
I bet you if they did some market research, and even if they're looking at people that aren't interested in watches, people don't like that bracelet.
No.
I've never met anyone who's like, oh, I like that bracelet. You know, you want a Jubilee, you want an Oyster,
Yeah.
right? So they just need their versions of that. But it's just that this all just ties into their whole arrogance of, you know, we know what we're doing. We're as good as.
There are whole
better.
markets like Forster and Uncle, like we were talking about before, that make alternate bracelets. Why aren't Omega tapping into that and doing, like, you know, Rolex? Their core point on the website is configure your Rolex, configure your Omega.
Yeah.
Do you like the 300 bracelet? Do you want the
They're
want the
probably
Apollo
doing
bracelet?
that because they want to be different from Rolex, but they want to be the same on price points. And a lot of, I mean, outside of, you could still make an argument for, you know, the standard Speedmasters, that they still represent good value in the market, which I think they are. And
But they're not obscenely priced.
300M. But, you know, some of the other stuff, when you look at their ceramic Speedmasters, you know, even the price of, you know, the Aquaterras, which are just boring.
That's getting silly now.
As hell.
Those need to be the entry levels.
And some of the price points on some of this stuff, you just look at it, you're like, hey, are you guys smoking some sort of crack pipe?
Yeah.
It don't make any sense.
What was your first watch?
An Omega.
An Aquaterra?
An Aquaterra.
What was my first?
I think it was an Aquaterra as well.
It was an Aquaterra.
But
would you buy them at today's prices?
Hell no. My second watch, straight after the Aquaterra, was a brand new Speedmaster, the Moonwatch Hesselite, £2,000 brand new.
Yeah.
This was in 2000, at the end of 2012. We're not talking like it was 20, 30 years ago.
No.
My Aquaterra was pre-owned, to be fair, but I think I paid £1,200 for it.
Yeah.
And that was the automatic model. And it was like, it was like this, it felt like Omega felt special right then, but also they were accessible.
Yes.
Whereas now it's like, okay, they're accessible in that they're always available.
Yeah. Hang on a minute, there's inflation at work. Yours is automatic at 1,200. Mine was quartz at 15. Ouch. That's inflation for you.
I mean, that's another good point, how they chopped quartz out of their range.
Yeah.
And it was like,
they make that work.
Yeah, it's like, actually, that gives you a point of difference, because sometimes, like, yeah, having an Aquaterra quartz is, yeah, if you just want to pick up and go watch, great. Yeah. And a lot of people, you know, who just want a nice watch, they don't care if it's automatic.
No,
but they were
if
like,
they want an Omega movement, they'll buy a coaxial Seamaster.
Yeah. Oh no, we're just going to just do only mechanical movements. Yeah. Well, okay. So you want to be like Rolex there? That's all that is.
The movement monsters are the Seamasters
and
the
they have
Speedmasters.
invested heavily in aspects of their business, like, you know, the R&D on the movements with the coaxial. You know, think, okay,
but no one's buying an Aquaterra for the movement.
No, and is anyone buying an Omega for the movement?
I think for a Speedmaster, because that's quite an identity
point. I think
the Omega
fanboys would try and argue the point that they buy it for that.
Yeah, but they wouldn't do that with an Aquaterra.
No, well, exactly. Well, you're not really gonna. It's not an enthusiast watch, is it? Anyway, I just thought, like, reading this article, I just thought it was really, like, interesting to have an insight into the kind of authorized dealer industry and the brand industry, and just like these fights that they have over space and square footage and position. It's
very indicative of the brand personality.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know what, Tudor could have really put their foot down and said, no, we're having that space, because you know that if you got to take Tudor if you want, you know, let's say, right.
Oh no, is this a part I'm gonna have to cut?
Right, yeah, probably, right. You know, you want to date this really good-looking girl, right? And she's like, okay, yeah, we'll go out, but my sister's got to come along.
I think you tried this one a couple of weeks ago.
No, I didn't. And you're like, well, I don't really want her sister come along being a third wheel, but I want to get in your pants, right?
Okay, this is a different analogy, fine.
So you've got to go along with it. But essentially in this situation, it's Omega, and they're like, no, she ain't coming. I don't want her coming along. So the party's over.
Basically.
And I just think, you know, Tudor was prepared to go along with it. Making it sound like a weird reason. But yeah, and to be fair, Tudor, Rolex, whichever way you want to look at it, could have forced, in this case, Tudor to have the best spot. And I mean, I know
further, and this is a compliment on Rolex and Tudor. They didn't have to compromise. They could have said, "F that."
That's the point.
We're coming in. Omega's going.
Yeah,
You're not giving them the third space. You're giving them no space.
Yeah, they
or
could
we're
have.
both going.
They could have called that card.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have been like...
Amiga's lucky they didn't do that.
Amiga is lucky.
Amiga's lucky they quit before they were fired.
Yeah, basically. You know, Amiga are just being petulant at this point. They are. It was a short-sighted move on their part. But anyway, I just thought it was interesting. I'd love to know your thoughts below. Please like, comment and subscribe. I'd love to have a video. Like, my video views are going down probably because of my bad analogies and drinking and lack of preparation.
I cut all your bad analogies.
Okay, maybe that's why.
Maybe. Maybe
Anyway, let me know your thoughts below. It's interesting to know. And also, of course, check out the site, robinhenrywatches.com.
Oh yeah, we run the shop, don't we? Yeah.
We do.
Okay, that's quite important. Okay, bye.